You're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
Give me a full ballerina skirt and a hint of saloon, and I'm on board.
I have a hole in my stomach!
I can't go back.
Welcome to the She Became Visible podcast. I'm your host, Renee Steelman. This podcast is my story. It's your story. It's our story. It's all the stories of all the women who one day knew that it was time to remember who they were, who they are, and stand up and be seen.
Hey, happy September. Okay, do you all know what that means? It means get your Halloween stuff out right now. That's what that means. I saw today on a morning show that it is the meteorology first day of fall. So I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm all for it because fall is my thing. I love fall. The great thing about fall decorations is what I used to do when I lived in the Pacific Northwest, because there were actual seasons kind of there, versus now I live in Arizona and there is 2 seasons, hot and really nice. So that's it. But what I would do in Oregon is I would put out the hay bales, the scarecrows, the autumn leaves, and the pumpkins. And then all you had to do when October came is take out the scarecrows and put in the witches. And then in November, all you had to do is just put out the turkeys, take out the witch and put in a turkey and put the scarecrow back in. And so it's like, it's worth decorating because you get 3 full months out of it versus Christmas, which is you've got basically maybe 23 days. And that's not worth it to me to drag out all those Christmas decorations. But regardless, anyway, it is September 1st. It is September, people. I am telling you, where has this year gone? It is insane. But welcome to She Became Visible. And I'm having a little microphone problems today, so I hope there's not too much of an echo. I'm actually using my computer microphone, which really makes me feel as though there's going to be a huge echo. So I hope that isn't true, especially for my guest today. I am really excited. I'm just excited and honored to have Amanda on my show today, Amanda Riehl. And I met Amanda officially back in February when my husband and I went down to a Thrive conference in St. George, Utah. And Amanda and her husband, Bill, were speaking at the Thrive conference. And then we had an opportunity to go out to lunch and I can get to know Amanda a little bit better. And I just felt a connection with Amanda because her and I mean, we both have, we don't have the stories of going out to BYU, meeting our husbands at BYU, getting married, and then, supporting them through their college education and moving to the new job place that followed after their husband graduated. We don't have that story. Both of us have the story of meeting our husbands, getting married, and our husbands went to work and we started a family. And I love that about us. Neither one of our husbands, have some fancy doctorate degree, but they're hugely intelligent and hardworking and experts in their field. And I also love that. And I also love that I feel like Amanda and I both have been where we fulfilled and I'll ask her about this. I don't want to be speaking for her, but I'll ask her. We kind of fulfilled our role that was given to us as a support system for our husbands. And then eventually we learned how to become partners with our spouses. And then I think, I know in my case, our whole complete family dynamics changed once my husband and I learned how to be partners and not just fulfill a role that was given to us. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about. So I love the fact that She Became Visible is a female voices podcast that we talk about the other side of the story. And so I'm really excited to bring Amanda on. So no more silly chit chat from me. Let's bring Amanda on right now. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I am doing really well. I am so excited to have you here. And I love seeing you in that seat.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, you're taking over the throne. I love it. Yeah. So we're just going to start out. And one of the things that really hit me was, and one of the reasons why I love having this She Became Visible podcast is I remember hearing Sandra Tanner on another podcast. And Sandra normally, when she goes on a podcast, talks about her relationship with her husband and what they did together as a team to bring out historical facts and things about the Book of Mormon and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So Sandra normally talks about the religious side of her deconstruction and moving on to a different kind of Christianity. But I don't think I've ever heard Sandra talk about Sandra. And one time I listened to her on a podcast, and she just for a brief moment mentioned how hard it was on her children to deconstruct and leave the church. And all of a sudden I saw, oh, let me hear about the Sandra part of this. It was always Gerald, what she and Gerald did. And so with you, it's the same thing. It's like there's a story behind this trajectory that even Bill, your husband, took. And I think we should refer to Bill on this podcast as the husband of Amanda Reel.
I love it.
That's what today. So I want you to tell me about you. I want you to start out by talking about your childhood and how you grew up. Did you grow up Mormon, and how did that family dynamic work? Where you fall in the family as far as siblings go? So just kind of start from the beginning and tell us the story of how little baby Amanda came into the world.
All right. So, born of goodly parents, another the fold. Yeah. So my dad was a convert and my mom's parents were converts. So I don't have pioneer stock. We don't go like way back or anything. Okay. So that was lucky for us.
Yeah.
But yes, I was born in the covenant, and there's 8 of us, 5 girls, 3 boys, and I am number 6. So yes, I had this Mormon upbringing. We did family home evening and scripture study sometimes. But yes, if we were on vacation, we went to church. We went to church every Sunday. So a lot of decisions were definitely made from that Mormon background. I would say pretty normal childhood with all those siblings. Nobody had time to be bored, right? So always had a friend, always had a playmate, went through school and everything. Normal, great life. I'm a band geek. I played saxophone. And in football season, I twirled the flag. That was a ton of fun. And I met Bill at work at McDonald's when we were seniors in school. We went to different schools. And what other questions do you have for me?
Oh my gosh. Oh, you know what? I love that, because one of the things that just recently I heard Dan McClellan on another podcast, and he mentioned that he was a convert and he was older, in 18, 19 when he joined the church. And so when you talk about your parents being converts, I feel like I can relate, because my parents were also converts and I was 12 when and so I have a background that's different from, like you said, pioneer heritage, 5 generations back, dyed in the wool. I really think that makes a difference in how you start playing the role as Mormons. Mm-hmm. And so when you talked about like having family home evenings sometimes, and going to church but maybe not on vacation all the time, and it just makes sense to people that aren't 5-generation Mormons, because we kind of are being introduced into this culture. It's not just a religion, it's a culture.
Mhm.
And it was the same thing for me. I remember my mom and dad trying to have family home evening for the first time, and everybody was in tears and angry and go to your room and, the whole bit, because we didn't know how this worked. And, we thought it was just a complaint session. Like we were going to sit down and, well, my brother, he won't leave me alone and he's not very nice to me. And mom's like, no, I don't know how this works. So I feel like you and I mean, besides the fact that you come from a large family. So your parents were converts, but then were they already members when they married?
So my mom's parents were converts.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when my dad met my mom, and that's the thing she did, like he was about it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So she kind of converted him a little bit.
Yeah. But I feel like it might be more of like mine and my husband's story, because I didn't convert Bill. Like
Yeah.
Bill was a way better Mormon than I ever thought I was ever going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. So you were born under the covenant then.
yeah.
Okay. So there wasn't even, like, I remember the story. I forget who it was I was listening to, and their parents joined the church with 2 kids. And then once they joined the church, they had 4 more kids, because, that's part of the thing, right?
Right.
6 years difference between this group of kids and these groups of kids. But you were, and my mom was done by the time they joined the church. So there's only 3 of us. So there were, no hope for that. But anyway, so I love that. Did you enjoy like primary and young women's? I mean, were those parts of your life?
Yeah, and I really did. I'm a very social person, so church was definitely a social outlet for me.
Right.
I didn't even walk at church until I was well over 2 or so, because I would just tug on a suit coat or a dress. Whoever would pick me up, that's who I would go to. I didn't care. I just wanted somebody to hold me. So I just remembered I would just tug until someone picked me up, and so it started there. And then after that, I was always popular with friends, of course, and I was just a social butterfly, just all over doing the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it worked for me, and I loved it, and it brought me people to be around. And so it worked for me in that aspect for sure.
That's so great. Do you think that your place in the family had a lot to do with that? Because like you said, I think one of the great things that the church does do is it does encourage large families. And I don't think you have to have 10 kids to be considered a large family. But I know, like you said, my kids always had built-in people to go on vacation with. We didn't have to bring friends along, built-in playmates, and we didn't have to have play dates scheduled because they all had siblings. And there's so many wonderful, advantages to that. So did that help with is your whole family really social and extroverts, or were you just like, because you were kind of the baby, where you're like, yes, I am here?
I definitely think it has to do with being one of the babies. I'm a Pisces. We're just kind of like that. Yeah. So we're all over the.
I'm sorry. I think the moon is in Pisces right now in the whole thing. So.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that might be why I'm so crazy. I don't know, but no. But yeah. And my mom had a big family, not because of church. My mom actually doesn't like people except for her offspring. And so I think she just made her little tribe that she wanted, and that was great for her. And so yeah, mom always just they wanted 12, but she did have 2 miscarriages, and the last 2 were cesarean, and just nature took its course, and that was it.
Isn't that something, isn't that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The more that you read historical, not just LDS history, but any kind of pioneer history. Yes, people had large families, but they had 10 or 12 children. And out of those 10 or 12, 6 died or 7 died. And so, the idea that nowadays with modern medicine, to have a large family, they're probably going to stick around, and you're going to have 10 or 12 kids. So that's a completely different outcome. But so you're just tripping along your senior year in high school, you get a job. And at this job, you happen to meet this Bill Reel guy. And
Yep.
and I love Bill's story about where his family dynamics were and how he really loved your family,
Mhm.
right? And he really thought, this is I'm really feeling comfortable and I want this. And that's what drove him to the church. So it wasn't even Amanda, flirting to converting, right?
Right. Yep.
So did he start asking you questions about the church, or why is your family so amazing, or why do you do the things you do, or what made him relate your family to? Tell me about this reason why you guys are so great.
Yeah, I don't so after dating for just a little bit, it didn't take us long. We moved very fast. But he saw that I went to church on Sundays and Wednesday nights, so he saw me doing this. So he wasn't quite ready like for Sunday, but he'd come on Wednesdays. So he'd come to Mutual with me, and he would only come to Young Women's actually. So, I mean, we had oatmeal facials, we're doing all the things. And then after probably the third time, they're like, we really like you coming, but if you're going to continue to come, you have to go to Young Men's. So they kicked him out of Young Women's.
Back in those days. What I wouldn't do for an oatmeal facial selfie.
I know, right? It was amazing. And Bill is always so amazing like that. Like we did ballroom dancing and things like that. So he's a fun guy. He really is. He really is a great guy. But yeah, they kicked him out to Young Men's. And so he did the Young Men thing, and, the guys were cool to him and he liked him and he got along with the boys. And so he's like, okay, I can do this Sunday thing. And then, like the Godhead, he'll tell you the lesson on the Godhead kind of spoke to him. Like it kind of made sense that God wasn't three people. And so that kind of took off for him from there. And everybody knows that Bill loves knowledge and he loves history and he just eats it up. So yeah, I didn't have to do anything but be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, sit next to him. Did you sit next to him during the discussions?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He took him out my house.
Did you, when you were taking the discussions, did you learn something that you're like, I didn't know that, or anything like that? Was there any, but they don't go real deep.
No, they don't. And anybody that doesn't go through primary, I actually kind of feel bad for them. Like you miss a lot when you don't have primary. So yeah, so all of those fundamentals I got from primary was kind of there. So yeah, I don't really feel like anything new was there for me or anything. Just lots of good reminders.
Yeah, that's true, because I was 12 when we joined the church. So my introduction was memorize one of the articles of faith, which I was like, okay. And, what's a Nephite? What's a Lamanite? I don't even know what the terms mean. And
right.
Crochet a purse. And then I, turned 12 and went into Young Women. So it was like, okay, that was weird. So yeah you're right. Primary is really where you get the verbiage, the language, and all of the terms down, and the basic stories and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember a time when it was years after he was baptized, and he ran into something. He's like, oh, by the way, do you know XYZ? And I'm like, back in primary, I did. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's such a weird thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So you and Bill, you got married fairly young.
19.
6
days after his 19th birthday.
So you graduated from high school, and you're like, now what do we do? Right?
Yeah. Well, we couldn't keep our hands off of each other.
Yeah.
So our bishop was like, you know what? You guys should get married. You're such a great example. You guys can go on missions when you're older together. But right now, you guys are just going to be such a great example to the youth. And I think it's a good idea for you guys to get married right now.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that funny? I mean, not funny in a, oh my gosh way. Because
right.
Say, it's like, here you are, 19 years old. Your frontal cortex still isn't formed. You haven't even started a life.
Right.
You're still, an adolescent really. And the bishop's like, yeah, you should probably get married because, you really like to make out. And that's the only reason you need, right?
Yep. We're not going to be temple worthy if we wait too much longer, right? So
Crazy. And I mean, I have a lot of friends who married young and the marriages worked. And so it's not, I don't think there's a playbook that can be said for, oh, if you get married under the age of 25, you're not going to be, it's not going to be successful. And I love though that you and Bill are so honest about how you kind of grew up together. And how do you think, because this is a new thing for Bill, did your relationship as a young married couple now, was it modeling your parents' relationship? And so you were like, oh yeah, this is normal for two Mormon kids. This is how it works to be now a family. Was that a model, or were there things where you're like, what's happening?
No, I think it was a good model. And then, of course, it is natural for LDS people and probably lots of religions actually to get married young. So, you see this all around you. So it wasn't weird.
Right.
And also I didn't have big, like worldly ambitions or anything. Like I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah.
I just happened to fall into a job I liked pretty good.
Yeah.
And, and so like my mother, I wanted to be a wife and a mother. So it was just all going along swimmingly to my plan, the Mormon plan, the thing you're supposed to do. And I did that thing well, I think.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Again, that's so much like me. It's like, I remember in high school, I had one friend whose father was a dentist. And so she went into dental hygiene. So she knew exactly, she went off to BYU. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. I had another friend that went right off to BYU and did interior design. I had another friend that went into dental hygiene. And I was like, I want to be a mom. I just want to have a family. And so I didn't have any kind of like dreams that I thought were being pushed down or anything like that. And so that's good for me, until, like you say, until I had 5 kids and all of a sudden I'm 32 and I'm like, oh, I know what I want to do now. And it's too late because I have 6 people I have to take care of. So that's the bad part. But, and like you say, because Bill was a convert and he was 19, they're not going to say, oh, go on a mission. They're going to say, hey, you found this great gal. She's got a great family. You guys are great together. I could see why your bishop would give you that advice, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you got married. Did you get married then in the church? And did the bishop do the ceremony?
Oh, no. We were in DC. We got married in the DC temple.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So even though he hadn't gone on a mission, you were temple worthy. So you got married in the temple.
Yeah. I mean, we did have to repent because we weren't 100% whole. But yes, our bishop did get us to the temple.
So great. Washington, D.C. temple.
Yeah. So, I was this princess getting married in a castle. I love Disney. So, that was my dream. I'd be a Disney princess. I had a castle. I got to get married in a castle.
That's amazing. And
worked.
How was that for you? What was the temple ceremony like for you? Were you like you said, was this part of like a fantasy land, or were you like, what the heck?
No, it was fantasy. And it wasn't until like after or later that, Bill's over there freaking out. Am I in a baker's convention? What's happening to me? What? And I'm all dreamy, like, I'm doing it. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm doing it. And it's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. I swallowed that pill hard.
That was exactly where I was. I mean, the weirdo costumes were like, this is a costume for the happy, like say Disney event.
Yeah, this is my ticket to eternal marriage. It's beautiful. It's great. I'm doing it. Right.
If they would have had, lamb's blood on the altar, I would have said,
did it. Yep, exactly. I'm like, we're doing it. Here we are. Yay. Yes, Renee. Yes. Yes.
That's so true. So, okay. So you guys, so you get married now because Bill was not raised in the church. Did you talk about whether you wanted children or how many children you wanted? Was that even a conversation?
Do you know what? We did not talk about it on the front end. He did kind of mention he wanted to wait a little bit, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we can wait. We didn't wait very long. I held a baby at church and I said, oh, it's time. So we got married in September of 97 and our first was born in February of 99. So that's all the waiting we did. Because I did. I was like, oh, it's time. And so he didn't know better and he went along with it and was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have 4 children. Is that correct?
Yep. Now the third and fourth, I did have to beg for. The first 2 times he was on board. Okay. And he said, okay, blindly. And it was like, okay.
Yeah.
But I had to beg for 3 and 4. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a little bit different when you actually have to start putting a roof over your head and and diapers and all that kind of stuff. And I remember it's so funny because, as you say, as the mother part of it, we never really had a conversation. But I remember my husband saying when I had my 5th, he was, he went to like after the baby was born and he left the hospital and he's sitting like in a Denny's and he's like, what the crap? How? And he actually went out and bought a red, I wish he was here so I could ask him, like a Plymouth station wagon. It was in 1980. Let's see, 81. It was like a 70s. It was a 1970s something Plymouth station wagon. And it was uglier than all get, but he thought, we have 5 kids. We have to have a station wagon. And it was so ugly and so bad. And he picks me up, comes back to the hospital. And I'm like, what is that? But like you say, so from the male perspective as the provider, that is terrifying.
It is,
So I can see where he was like, what? Wait, So what were you doing with these 4 children? Were you a complete stay-at-home mom?
Not 100%, but for the most part. So I was a nurse's aide. I'm like, well, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So what's a grown-up job I can do? So I became a nurse's aide. And for our first one, I was actually the insurance holder because Bill was going to college. And so I only took the 6 weeks off. I worked for the county and that's what I did. But by the time I was pregnant with our second one, I only work 2 days a week now. So every other weekend plus 1 other day during the week.
Okay.
And then for the third one, I went down to just every other weekend only. And then with Zachary, it was right before he started kindergarten. I started working in a school with the special needs kids.
Oh, excellent. See, you are a special breed of people because, I have so much respect and love and honor for the people that choose to work with the special needs children. As a special needs mother, those women that worked with my son all through school and loved him. Now I'm going to cry. It takes a special person. Even though I was the mother of a child with severe disabilities, I would never have gone and worked in a school with other people's children. I was overwhelmed with my own. And so I have such a place in my heart. They made such a difference. These women were the ones that would say to me, I think he needs some ankle huggers on his wheelchair. I'm like, what's an ankle hugger? Or, he seemed a little upset today. They would let me know, behind the scenes, what was going on. And he loved school. And I know that he loved school because of the women that he worked with. And it was all women, by the way. It was all women that worked in the special needs program. So I have so much love and respect for you for that. And my daughter has a special needs son. He has autism, and it's the same thing. It's the women that take him aside and say, I think he was having a hard day today. And it's just that woman bond. So I love you for that. I absolutely love you for that. So you're tripping along, and like you say, Bill is just a knowledge like vacuum. Just please let me be learning. Yes. And I feel like that you and Bill and my husband and I, we're just the opposite. Like I'm a lot like Bill, where it's just like I can't even watch regular TV. I have to be watching something on YouTube that's historical or something that I'm learning something about. I've tried 2 or 3 different book clubs and I can never be in them because they want to read a fiction book. And I'm like, why would I spend time reading fiction when I could be reading something biographical or historical or something like that? And my husband's just more than happy to just work hard and enjoy life. And he's way more of an extrovert like you. So that's interesting. So he is, first of all, absorbing the Mormon church. And he is getting the historical things down, and he is working hard. And you guys are living in Ohio.
Yes.
And he is made a bishop at what, 29?
Yes.
And
something like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine a 29-year-old being asked to consult with another adult. I mean, he's
a baby.
Yes. What was your demographics in the ward? I mean, did he have like 65-year-old men coming in and wanting advice and counsel?
Yeah, there was that. Yes. And also where we lived in Ohio, the hospital and the school there was a teaching hospital. So we would have a lot of young couples there. You know, they'd do their 2 years residency and move. So we did have a lot of young people coming and going too, as they're going through, you know, their medical schooling as well. So we did have some young people, but yeah, the 65-year-olds, of course. Yeah.
That's amazing. And did you see a change in him? Was this position, this calling, did it weigh heavy on him, this responsibility?
Only when he was going through a particularly hard thing with somebody, not generally. I think he kind of loved it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, but just when times he would come home and I could tell he was kind of down, I would just look at him and I'd be like, church or work, because, you know, if it's church, you can't talk about it. Right.
Yes.
And so all I could do is, you know, hold him and console him emotionally that way without having a clue what he's going through. Right.
Right.
So that was hard, that I couldn't fully, you know, support him. But also I knew it was in the realm of people's privacy, and he never, ever to this day has ever broken any of those confidences.
Yeah.
You know, and we had a really good ward. They were emailers too. So like he was able to get a lot of things done over email and computer and things like that. So they were awesome with us.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it just worked. And, you know, and since Bill just kind of, like you said, was a vacuum with knowledge in the church, he always had high callings. You know, it didn't take very long for him to be in the elders quorum and doing all the things. So he's always had really high callings. So, you know, here's me, I'm just a beaming wife, because I'm like, I don't have to do anything and be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's so, and again, another thing that we have in common, you know, our husbands are hardworking and they're obedient and they are there. I mean, if there's something that needs to be moved or any kind of a service type thing, you know, my husband was there. So he was, again, always held positions of authority, which at the time, it honestly wasn't until I had my 6th baby that I was like, excuse me. I'm tired of sitting in these pews by myself. My husband's off visiting some other ward. I am raising these children alone, you know, because it was work or church. It was work or church. I mean, Saturdays and Sundays were church, and Monday through Friday was 12-hour work days and then church. And so raising the family was really my responsibility. Did you feel that way?
I did a lot. And, again, we had an amazing ward family, and my parents were in the same ward. And so I did not make my children sit with me. It was too much. Like you said, right? Like I'm by myself. I have 4 wiggly kids. How is this supposed to happen? Yeah. So if one would choose to sit with a best friend or grandparents, like I did, I'm like, okay, you go, you know, and they knew they had to, we could not hear them. If dad could hear them on the stand, there'd be trouble, you know? Yeah. So they knew they'd have to be quiet and whatever. And they did great. But yeah, I think the funniest thing actually was when Bill was released and he was now going to sit with us. Like the kids freaked out. Like our youngest was kind of scared actually, and they didn't know what to do. They're like, oh, because now dad made them sit with us in the pew. So number one, that's, so now dad's sitting with us and now I have to sit here and I don't have a choice anymore. They
Yes.
freaked out. They didn't know what to do.
That's so funny you would say that, because that's exactly what happened. I remember when we moved to Arizona, so he wasn't in the bishopric anymore, and he actually sat with us. And so it was me and him and our son, TJ. And TJ, being in a wheelchair and being nonverbal, he would, he loved the music. He loved choir. And so when we would start to sing the opening hymn, he would start singing. And his idea of singing was, and
Right.
which everybody in the ward loved. And I'd been listening to for 37 years. But all of a sudden, he's sitting there next to him and he's like, oh, he's putting his hand over his mouth and he's taking him out into the foyer. And I'm like, did you hear him when you were on the stand? He said, no. And I said, then chill. We're good, but the same thing. It was like the kids sitting very quietly and I was like, go away. We've been doing
I know, right? It's like, you're messing us up. You're the one that has to go.
Yes, we had a system. You're screwing up the system. Yeah, exactly. That is so funny.
Oh, I love that.
Now, I know that Bill said that, part of his acceptance of the gospel was also the role that he had as a father and as a patriarch and as the presiding authority in the church. And he took that role very seriously.
Very seriously.
And I remember him saying that, there was a time when you were like, and we need to talk about this, So talk a little bit about that, where he's learning, he's still learning, and he's a freaking bishop at 29,
Right.
So he's got, like you say, he's got a little bit of authority, he's got a power. People are coming to him, asking for advice. Teach me, personal, that you can't help but to take that into your home life, right?
Yes. And it's funny because all that hit Bill really early. Like we're talking about like first week of marriage, right?
Oh.
So our apartment was just around the corner from my parents, lucky for me. And so there was a couple nights let's walk over there in tears, crying. And so it was very early in our marriage that my dad sat down with Bill with the Book of Mormon and opened it up to Unrighteous Dominion.
Oh,
snap. Yeah. So he got that pretty quickly. And so I think after that, like there still was this whole patriarchy and things, but I think after that, it kind of did calm down a little bit. And now we were Bill and I lived very separate lives together, but really not for any reason except for, he is the go-getter, the doer, the homemaker, the callings holder and all of this. And although, I did have the big callings too, being married to him, like I'm not the preparer that he is or anything like that. So he is all serious about all the things he does. And so I think it just kind of let him absorb into those other things. And so it kind of let me off the hook. He would be busy with those things. So I busied with the kids. And so, it all just kind of worked out that way. And, patriarchy was par for the course, right? So I never thought anything about it. And I'm not a person that really wants much anyways. And what I want, I get, like, not in a bratty sense, but I will go out and get it. I don't need it to be brought to me necessarily per se, if that makes sense. And so, we just kind of did our own things.
That's so true. That's so right on, because you're exactly right. I mean, when people talk about two ships, passing in the night, when you have a large family, when you have, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever kids, and I mean, when I listen to my daughters talk about what they're doing, they live in their car, they're football, piano lessons, drum lessons, ABA therapy, tutors in the school. It is a full-time job. And so you're doing your role, they're doing their role. And then even in the church, it's like you're over here, I'm over here. And it's just the way it works. And sometimes I think that it's a great system. Sometimes I think, that kind of like you were saying, it allows you to kind of just do your thing without having to think a lot about it. And it kind of makes the cogs go round, and it makes the wheels turn. And so I'm not saying that that's negative. I feel badly for the women, especially that have now they've got this role, but then now somehow through a death or a divorce or something like that, they now have to also be the breadwinners, or, changing the oil and making sure the tires aren't bald and all. I mean, you need a partner, and then those partners have to have their designated roles, just like in any other corporation or business. So it's not a negative thing at all. Absolutely not. So yeah, absolutely. So tell us, I know that Bill's, when he first started out with like, I'm having a little bit of issue here. I know that his way of handling that was to become an apologetic. And so his first thing was, and I hear this so often, I don't know if I've ever heard, well, maybe a few, but most of us, when we start to learn more, and I call it more, I don't like calling it a faith crisis, because I don't think it was a crisis at all. I think it was fabulous, but it was definitely an awakening. And when most of us first hear something like that, I feel as though there's a large percentage of people that do what Bill and I did, where it's like, well, we're just going to find out more about this, and then it's going to make sense. And I've heard Alan Mount, I've heard so many other people go, Alicia, I've heard so many, they just go, okay, well, I'm just going to read this book, Rough Stone Rolling, and that's going to make everything clear. Or I'm going to read Emma Smith, The Mormon Enigma, and I'm going to understand Emma better, and then I'm going to understand Joseph. And then, and the more you start reading, you're going, okay, this isn't helping. I mean, I started out with, but Joseph Smith is still a prophet, and the Book of Mormon is still true. Well, the Book of Mormon is still, that's kind of
right.
So because like you said, you're busy doing your thing, he's doing his thing. When he starts to have an awakening, but he's going to try to be an apologetic with it, where are you in all that?
It's really funny. So at first, he didn't even want to tell me, and I know you guys have all heard this story, but he didn't want to tell me at first because you have all those stories of divorce, right? So he was afraid to tell me. And then because of my insecurities and self-loathing, I was not all fist in the church. I was just glad Bill came along to take me to the temple so I can have an eternal family, like he was my savior. I was never going to get these things. I was never good enough. And so, like, did I work hard for it? No, it was just dumb luck that I got it, And so, lost my train of thought here. I'm so sorry.
Well, no, you were talking about how he's starting to go through his apologetic thing.
Oh, right. And so, when he finally told me, my response being, well, let's go church hopping, and then like he says, that gave him the ability to kind of slow down. And so he was able to kind of digest this, put it where he needed to, and, what shelf did it fit into? And so that slowing down, I think that allowed him to do the apologetic thing, because he's still digesting, he's still in the rabbit hole, he's still trying to make it work, right? And so I think that's where the apologetics kind of came in, and he was able to like do that really strongly too, is because, he doesn't have to worry about a spouse wondering what he's doing, or are we leaving the church, or are you going to take my temple marriage away, or am I not going to be eternal anymore? He no longer had to worry about any of those things, so he could just totally concentrate on any of the subject matters or anything that he wanted to, and just kind of take a breath and see what was out there for him, I guess.
That's so interesting. When you mentioned that you mentioned the word self-loathing, have you always felt that? I mean, did you always feel like I don't really have a lot of value, and I can't believe that this man is going to love me and marry me. And now I get my value through him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's so funny because it is, yes, it's so much that. And also, like, I have a really big personality, and, and people that know me see that right off the bat. And, they see, Bill's this microphone guy, and everybody thinks he's this big extrovert and loves to be around people and all, when it's not that way. And, we're at his work parties and whatever, and he's clinging on to me. Let's go sit down. I'm like, I'm talking to your friends over here, So that's always been a fun dynamic for us, I guess.
Yeah. That's so
yes,
true.
I have self-loathing, but yes, I'm amazing at the same time. So I don't know how that works, but it's that way.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about, because it's the same way. It's like, I have a podcast. I'm right here. I'm I have a ring light. I have a microphone. I'm on YouTube, right? So people would assume, oh, she's an extrovert. She just loves to be out in front. And the reality is, it's like, I'm going to shut this down, and then I'm going to take a breath, and then I'm going to have to put myself back together again. And my husband would never have a podcast, but you invite him to a party. Can we please have a party at our house and have 75 people over?
Yeah.
We are never on an airplane without him talking to the entire crew. And I just put my headphones in and bow my head, like, leave me alone, And
yes.
It's so funny what people assume is an extrovert or an introvert. It's like, no, let me tell you how this works. And that's so funny that you would say that. And I also think that's such a female thing, where my personality wants to be out there, but I still, would you call it like that imposter syndrome? Do you ever feel that, where you're putting on something, but that's not really who you are?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever feel like that?
Sometimes I do, but I think I've just gone to calling my chameleon for so long now. Like, that's just what I go with. I'm like, I'm a chameleon. I do it all. I'm all over the place. What do you need? Because that's what I'm going to be. Like, I will conform to the energy I'm getting off of who I'm with.
Oh,
that's who I am.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I wish I had a psychology background, because I find that fascinating, but it brings you joy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And also, when you talk about, like, maybe when you talk about self-loathing, it's not like you hate yourself. It's just that how would you describe it? How would you put it into words?
Good question. Never that I can't be good enough in any particular thing. So does that mean I'm not good at anything? So therefore I'm just not good. Like, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do that. So, like, what can I do? I don't know. Nothing. So I don't know. It's such a weird thing to be. You're making me think, Renee.
No, but I mean, because you're happy, and and I feel as though you're very self-confident, and it's not that you hate yourself. I think you love who you are. But where do you think that came from? Do you think that when you mentioned, like, going to the temple, look, I'm doing it, I'm here. I didn't think I was going to do it because I'm not worthy, but look, I'm here. So do you think that came from maybe that perfectionist gospel, that prosperity gospel, where you're never good enough, or
probably, and then of course Brad Wilcox showed us that everybody was thinking that way, right? And you're not weird. We're all not feeling enough in this perfectionist religion, right? So I think a lot of it did have to do with that. Like, I don't like reading, and the scriptures are so boring. I've never read any of those books cover to cover. How many times I need I be more, like, how many times have we read that, right? Yeah. I still have never made all pages through of any of the books.
Yeah.
So because of that, I have to be a terrible person, right? Like, I don't want to check all the boxes. I don't like checking all those boxes. They're not my boxes. I don't like them. They're boring. They're stupid. I don't like them. I'm way more fun for that. And so to be so serious, and I can't. And so, yeah, that is so interesting, because you're right. It's not that I hate myself, but then the perfectionist from the church. And then, of course, children are mean. And so going through school, if you don't have the right money, the right clothes, the right, this or that, then you're nobody and people make fun of you. And I'm 5'10", so as a woman, that's really tall. And so the short little boys around you make fun of you for being tall and things, right? So I always had a lot of friends. That was never a problem. I was very popular with my friends. But of course, if you're not in the ones who you think you're supposed to be with, then you're no good, right? And so I always looked at myself through what I thought other people's lens were, who were the negative naysayers, not the people that loved me and gave me all this positive affirmation. But of course, it's the naysayers that we listen to. And so, I'm just kind of going off of them. I'm like, oh, I can't be worth anything because this is what I'm being told by the outside world. And so I just kind of internalized that.
Yeah.
But obviously not 100% because I'm like, I'm freaking amazing. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. But you're so right. I think Brene Brown brings this out so often, how we retain the negative. You could have 14 people go through and say, Amanda, I loved, oh, you're so fun. And oh my gosh, your hair is so great. Your hair is so great. And,
Thanks.
and you're like, you hear it, but in the back of your mind, you're going, oh, well, if you only knew. And I mean, wow, you didn't see it. We immediately apologize and put it into and then you have one person that says, why did you do that today? And that's it. That's the one thing. I mean, I can remember, it's so funny. I have such a bad memory. And I remember going to school in the fall, first day of school. And, I bought some new school clothes, but of course these school clothes, everything that's out there right now is fall, right? Well, it's not usually fall, actually, when you start school.
Right.
I went to school in a wool skirt, a wool sweater, and matching leggings, because it was, 1960 something. So the top and the leggings matched, and then the plaid skirt, you can envision it. And somebody came up to me and goes, don't you know that you don't wear wool until after Labor Day? And I was like, I didn't know that, but I am now crushed and feel like an idiot. And that is my big memory from junior high,
Isn't that crazy? And I bet you were so gorgeous.
And it was just like, why is that my memory? Why?
Right.
But that's how we as women, and that's really a little bit of how the patriarchal system is set up, to where, if you're not sitting at the cheerleader table, then you have no value. You have no worth. And like you said, band geek, I have my kids were half and half athletes, half in the band. They just each decided who they were. And, or I had a girlfriend whose daughter was in the drama club. She wasn't part of the cool kids, but she was in the drama club with those kids. And there's just this, I hate that. I just hate that about the way the dynamics are set up.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay. So going back, so Bill, I remember when he put out, just like last year or so, when he put out the audio tape of his excommunication, and he is rattling off names, dates, times, locations, and I remember contacting him and I said, I want a copy of that. He goes, I don't have a copy of that. Just came out of my brain. And I was like, oh, see, now that I can't even remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
Right.
And, it's so frustrating because when you talk about like reading these books, I am reading a lot of books, especially now that they have audiobooks. I am listening to books all the time. And then when I get into a discussion with my husband, he'll be like, where did you hear that? I'm like, I don't know. I heard, which makes you sound like an idiot.
Right.
And it's so frustrating, but so I can see where he's reading all these books. He's got all this knowledge and you're just like, I'm just good.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, that's you. You go do that.
Yeah. But it makes you feel as though maybe I'm not smart. Maybe and so you're not feeling good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But was there anything that he was bringing home that you were like, okay, now that I'm not listening to that. Was there anything where you were like, now I'm getting scared?
No, because he didn't talk to me about it and I didn't ask about it.
Okay.
And so it's kind of, I don't even know how we got to where I'm like out and not believing anymore, because all the stuff he was going through, like to me, that was all still just history things. And I just didn't care. Like I always had really bad history teachers in school where you take the notes and you take a test. Who learns anything? Not me like that. The other history class, they're playing a mock stock market and I'm taking notes. So history has always been out for me. So he's eating it up and he's loving it. He'll say something every now and then, but it's like, I don't care. The whole, we did water witching with the kids with a metal hanger, or the electrical outlets, excuse me. And, so those things were fun. And that's how he kind of worked it in with the kids and stuff. But I'm still like, data, I don't care. And so I'm very emotional. And, as it's all coming apart for him, and then the November policy, that was it for me. We one of our daughters was actually, I don't even know how she was brave enough, but before we even moved out here, so we've been out here for 8 years, and that would have put her at, I don't know, 11, 10, 12, so very, very young.
Yeah.
And she came to us and was like, I might be bisexual.
Oh.
And so, like, we're like, okay, cool. And she's so young anyways, like she's just going to start her journey of figuring herself out. Right. So,
Right.
we don't talk about it, but she also knows like, she's okay. Right. Like we
Right.
accept you. You're
Right.
okay. Everything's cool.
Right.
And then jump forward to 2015 in the November policy. We're like, wait, what? Excuse me? Yeah. Out.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
See
So
you.
that really helped you to also go along and make that decision where it's like, I'm not going to be a part of this anymore. So would you
Yeah.
say that was your jumping off point? Because like you
I would
said-
say so. Yeah. And so I used to love like near-death experience and things like that. And so like, there had to be a God because these things are happening. Right. And so I think I always felt like, yeah, God's out there just because we're told there's a God out there. Right. And
Yeah.
Jesus, and, we're just told these things. And so I just, one of my talents is to believe on other people's words. Right.
Yeah.
That's the baloney I would say, because there was nothing out there for me. So I'm like, no, I have the faith to believe on others' words. All the stupid things we say, right?
No.
But that's where I was. And so that's how I had to be straight with myself, is that's what I had to say, right? Because everything else it was all so empty. But no, I had that faith to believe on other people's words.
And you are so right. That is very specifically described as a talent and a gift. And so you've got the other people that are been blessed with the ability to acquire knowledge and teach. Then you've got the people that are the learners and the followers. You have to have you have to have all of the spectrum to make a complete thing. And so you're going along and like, hey, the guy, it's so funny you'd say that, because I just read on a little Facebook post, somebody said they put a quote up by Bruce R. McConkie, and I forget what it was, but it was really kooky. And I just turned to my husband and I said, why did we buy all that? He had such a presence and he came across as such an authority, such a person of wisdom that, he could have said anything. We would have gone, okay, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a lot like you. It's like, look, the church to me was a community. It really was. I wasn't even into, I'm the same way. I read the Book of Mormon probably from cover to cover, probably twice in my whole life. And once when I was 18, and probably when I was teaching seminary was another time, but other than that, and I read the Bible once in my life. And I remember going, I probably shouldn't read that because that really messed me up. Like, I start reading about the incest and all of that. And I'm like, I don't, I don't want to hear this anymore. So I didn't know any people would pop up this about Paul or something about it in Corinthians. It says this. And I'd be like, oh, I don't even know where Corinthians is, but what are we doing for Relief Society?
Right.
So it really was the community, and where your children, were they aware that Dad had a podcast and he was?
I think only vaguely.
Okay.
The whole rule about the computer has to be in the living room, right? A shared space, so they knew Dad was on the computer all the time. They knew that Mom wanted to throw the computer out of the window.
Because Dad was on the computer all the time. Yeah. Well,
yes, look, it ended up being a great work that he's still doing.
Yeah.
And so many people need all your guys' voices. And so, it's amazing and I love it. But yes, when you have young children,
yeah,
and you're a bishop and you have a podcast,
yeah,
you're just like, I need you here.
Yes.
I need you.
Yes.
A kid needs a bath. Someone's throwing up. Somebody, I don't know, but I need you right now.
Yeah. And I love that you shared that, because I remember hearing, Margie DeLynn say the same thing. It was like, I want him to be his best. I want him to do what is making him happy and successful. But now he's brought it into my stinking home, and I've got strangers coming into my house, and it's like, this is my space. You're invading my space. And I loved hearing her say that, because that's what I'm talking about, where, there's more to this story, where the women are holding down the fort, like you say, cleaning up the bathing kids and helping with homework and taking somebody to football. And it's like, it takes two people. This didn't just all magically happen. I mean, I remember, my husband saying, something like, well, people, this would here, you'll relate to this. I would get my son dressed, and because he loved the interaction of everything that went on in football, right? So my boys are playing football. My girls are on the cheerleading squad. So my husband is already over there. He's already at the football field. He's been there since 3:00 when, practice started. So I'm getting my son dressed. I'm getting him in his wheelchair. I take him over to the high school. I unload him from the van. I wheel him onto the track. And my husband's like, thank you. And then he takes him, stands next to him, leans on the wheelchair. And, while he's watching all the football practice and all this kind of stuff. And people come up to him and they'd be like, you are such a good dad. I mean, you're such a good father. And
you want to punch him in the face?
Yes. And I'm just like, oh, please. And I said this once before. I said, honestly, I think one of my biggest cracks was when and this was even before I started down the rabbit hole, was I was sitting in sacrament meeting. My husband's on the stand. I'm sitting there with my grandson, who's now living with us. So I'm now raising the second generation, and my son in the wheelchair. And the stake president is visiting sacrament. And he stands up and he says, I look out there and I see TJ, and I think to myself, doggone it, if TJ can be here every Sunday, I don't have any excuse. And I'm like, okay, how do you think TJ got here?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think he just got in the car and drove himself over? Wow, how diligent to be able to come to church every week in a wheelchair. I'm like, wow, I am totally a cipher. I am invisible. I am so not even present in any of this, Yeah. So like you said, I mean, thank heavens we have a Bill Reel and Mormon discussions. But in the meantime, what's going on in the background?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's so important. Well, I love that, that was one of the things I wanted to really make a point, is that there is, even listening to Russell Nelson talk about his career and his not going through his training to be a cardiologist, and how he was so frustrated because one of his children or one of his clients died. They didn't, the heart surgery wasn't successful, and he was laying on the floor, and his wife was like, shut up, I'm like, yeah, because she had 9 freaking children. All right.
Right. Yeah.
We don't need to hear all this, but that's not exactly how it was given at conference, but that's not, So in conclusion, okay. So when Bill was excommunicated, they didn't excommunicate you, right?
No.
What happened? Where did you?
I immediately, I was waiting. So when he got X, I immediately went to the computer and took my name off the records. Okay. I might have even done it that night. Okay. It might have been the next night, but it was very quickly. I remember like, Okay, I'm waiting for you. You're X. Okay, good. Whew, here we go.
Okay. So, but did they even call you in? Did they even say, "Let's
I
talk
did
to
speak.
Amanda"?
I kind of wish I didn't. I think what Bill said would have been beautiful by itself, but they
Yeah.
did give me time to speak, and I muddled something stupid out. But yeah,
So you were sitting in the foyer, or were you there?
no, I was in the room.
You were in the room when he is giving them all this thing. What about this? What about this? What about this? And they're like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay. And then did they even ask you about your children?
No.
They didn't even ask.
No, but I did, and one of the things, because I was kind of listening to our friends, like, so beforehand, we had a couple of close people over, and John Delenn, whatever, and talking and whatever. And, and so somebody had mentioned something about my eternal family now without my husband. So I did, because the thing that we absolutely loved at the beginning of the hearing, the state president said, Bill, your integrity is intact. You can't speak ill of the brethren. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
And so that's all we needed to hear. And so I was really trying to play into, so his integrity is intact. So you're taking away my eternal salvation.
Yeah.
Because he can't call somebody a liar.
Yeah.
Like, I no longer have eternal salvation because he can't call somebody a liar.
Yeah. Yeah. Our children, who knows? Everyone's off on their own now in the Celestial kingdom somewhere, outer darkness, actually. And,
Right.
It doesn't even matter to you because you've just acknowledged that this man is a man of integrity, honesty, ethical, but he just said a few things that just made us a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take that all away from you. Amazing. So when you went home, what did you say to the kids?
So at this time, luckily we all, we were all doing it together.
Okay.
Unbeknownst to each other, we didn't talk about it or anything, but, and at the time where the age of the kids, there was probably a lot of boredom.
Okay.
At church,
Yeah.
and there's two categories of people, especially for my daughters, that you do not speak ill of. It's LGBTQ plus people and special needs.
Yes.
People. If you say anything ill about those two sects of people, my kids are done. They're out.
Yeah.
They have no use for you, and they're done. And so I think everybody with that November policy in my household were like, peace out.
Okay. Yeah.
So luckily my kids, they were already out as well, and so like they also try to take their name, though 3 of them try to take their names off the records. But by this time, like now you had to have a notarized, they made it a little bit more hard. Right. And so I think their names might still be on our records. And at the time, our youngest, he's as smart as his dad, and he doesn't, believe in any of this nonsense either, but it's what he knew.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, what if when I have a family, what do I do? So he didn't want to take his name off the records, but also he was 11 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like, whatever. And it didn't matter to me if his name's on the records or not. I mean, it doesn't do anything because it's, to me, the church is make believe. So if his name is affiliated with something that I think is make believe, it's no skin off my back. It doesn't matter, and it didn't take him long to be like, yeah, no, I'll figure my family out by myself. And, I'm not going to do that. He's just too smart. And, but
I think it's one of those things that if you have any kind of an analytical or critical thinking mind, and you do start going, oh, but what about this? Or, oh, but what about that? That's when you either have to say, none of this makes sense. None of this is logical, but I'm just going to have a faith to believe it. You either have to go down that route, or you have to say, I can't believe this. It doesn't make sense. And I understand that faith is not necessarily logic, but I love the statement that, faith is things to believe in that can't be proven. It's not, here's all the facts, here's all the data, I'm still going to believe it. That's the difference between sometimes the definitions of faith. And I was the same way. It's like, well, we have 6 children. One of them evidently is already going to the celestial kingdom because he's perfect. The other 5, let's see, 3 of them have not left the church, but the minute they left home and had freedom to do what they own, they stopped going to church. One of them came back and tried it again, but his wife, again, that's why I love women. His wife was a convert strictly because of him. It's like she's very, very, very God oriented and very believing in a Christianity. So to her, it was no big deal. And he was like, let's do this. Now that we have a family, let's do this. And so she's like, sure, what the heck? But she was not familiar with the Mormon way of life. So all of a sudden she's getting what I had, because my son is just exactly like his father, hardworking. So he's 12 hours at work and then another 6 at church, all day Saturday with the Boy Scouts, gone all day Sunday. And she's doing this thing with the kids. And because she wasn't raised in the church, she was like, yeah, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And so, they, and she had a hard time with polygamy too. And it was so funny because I feel so bad, but I gave her all the answers when she said, I have a really hard time with polygamy. I'm like, oh, it was just for the widows, to take, and it was just a way to increase the, the church. I gave her that same stuff, and I had to apologize. I had to go back and apologize. Say, I am so sorry. I did not even know the history of our own church. I didn't even know my own religion,
Yeah.
But, and now you've got grandchildren, which are the best. Yeah. It is our reward.
Yes.
Yeah. Grandchildren do you have?
We have 3.
Okay. And your children are not active in the church, so those children are not blessed, and you're not doing all that primary rigmarole and all that.
Right.
Kind of stuff.
Yep.
So that's beautiful. And will they? And how are you like handling life if you're not taking the children to primary and sitting through 3 hours of church? How on earth can these little grandchildren be surviving?
I know, right? Well, they're surviving amazingly because, like they have fixed so many generational garbage that they were handed. I love watching my kids parent. They are such cool parents, and they're just amazing. And then, all of the growth and learning that Bill and I are doing, they're definitely going to be getting like Buddhist type teachings, and be inclusive and be, about right now and be good to yourself, be good to others. And, all the things. We're just going to teach them all the things that we didn't have. And they're just amazing little people.
And so they're learning morality and values and things like that. They are. How does that happen?
I know what. And, and another recent thing of Bill's is he wants to, so he's using ChatGPT and all the AI things, and it's stories, seeds for children or something. Then he's reading stories and he has them make this story, and he has a, clips, running and a special thing to find, but he like put in like the glowy magic people or whatever it was. And what is that? The whole town like believed in this glowy I don't remember what they're called. Yeah. But then this one kid got curious about them. So he went and asked an old person about it. And then of course this old person was a great person because he's like, let his mind be open. And so he went on a journey, and he went to find, it was just this big crystal that was shining, and so basically myth busting, right? Yeah. Or so he just has this principle he wants to teach, plugs it into ChatGPT, does a slideshow, and then he reads this story to teach morality, which who would have think you can do that without church?
That's amazing.
It is so cute.
Yeah.
It's stories like, so it's like stories with Nana and Papa,
yeah.
Eventually I'll read some too, but so it's just this fun way to, yes, there is all kinds of ways you can teach children morality without God and church.
Yeah. Without the punishment that goes along with it.
Exactly. Yeah. There doesn't have to be penance, right?
Yeah, exactly. So tell us, as we're kind of closing up, what are you doing right now? Are you still working in the school? Are you still working in a nursing type of a profession or with?
Yeah, no. So when we moved out here 8 years ago, totally whole brand new line of work. I work at a bank.
No.
Yeah. Yep.
That's amazing. All right. Well, and you are probably one of the savior people that now I go into a bank and they go, yeah, we can't talk to you because of COVID. We only have one employee in the whole entire bank, you know? So I'm kind of like, really? Because I just want to close my account. I honestly, I've tried to close an account like 3 times. And every time I go in, they go, you have to make an appointment and come back. And I'm like, really? Okay. I keep putting money into this account that I want to close
Yeah.
because I can't get into the bank to close it. So you're not working on the health genre at all anymore.
Nope.
Do you love it?
I do love it. I used to always try to say I hate people, but anybody that knows me knows that I can't really honestly say that, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's a service industry, so I'm still taking care of people. I take care of people. That's what I do.
You know what? You are absolutely right. And I love that because I have a friend that's in the banking business as well. And she's getting so frustrated with this. There's more and more online stuff, or, you got the little kiosk set up in the bank where you don't, and she's like, this is not good. This is not good. We need people. We need one-on-one. People have a relationship with their banker, just like they do with the, the grocery store and the Starbucks person. And they need that, especially, so I love that. I love that you said that you're a lot like my husband. You are, where can I serve? How can I serve? And that's where that love of people and interaction comes in, because that's where you find out, oh, that person just said such and such, I could serve them in some way, where people like me, probably, I don't know, you'll have to tell me about Bill. I just hear the story and go, that really sucks. Okay, bye.
Hell, it's so weird because I am that way. Like, I love to serve you, but only if it's what I want to do.
Oh,
I'm very picky about it.
Yeah.
I'm not I have to go serve everybody all the time, to be fulfilled. No, I'm like, sometimes I could be like, that sucks. I'm really sorry. And turn around and go away.
You know what, though? I attribute that to your female nurturing part, because I do think that women are able to see through sometimes, where it's like, I'm not going to bring you dinner because you're married, you have a spouse, you just had a baby, you didn't have open heart surgery, you knew you were having a baby, you knew even when and what time, because it's a scheduled, a C-section. So you could have prepared, and they have got a Burger King and DoorDash. So I'm, and where this, where I do think there's a little bit of the men were like, we need to serve these people and bring them in dinner. I'm like, why? What she really would like is for you to go pick up the other 3 kids and probably bring them over to your house for the day. They can do themselves, not that meals aren't great once in a while. I'm not saying don't yell at me, people.
Yeah.
But,
I know. No, you're so right. It's your friend in bed, can't move, and she has 2 young children, and her house is a mess, and the dishes need done, and the grass needs mowed. And yes, you're thinking, what the F is wrong with your husband?
Yeah.
But me and my oldest son are in the car right now.
Yeah.
He goes mows the lawn. I take care of the kids. I clean the house and do the thing. So yeah, it's not the casserole, people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what does Brene do? Get down in the hole.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Don't get in the hole. Which no, I don't do all the time. Sometimes I just want to throw a casserole at you.
Yeah. Exactly.
You guys are going to learn things about me. You're like, oh, Amanda.
Yeah. No, it just confirms my gut feeling. I knew I loved you. So you have been an absolute party. I love that I had this opportunity to interview you.
Thank you so
And
much.
I really wanted people to get to know the Amanda part of the Bill and Amanda combo. And I just felt like there wasn't enough, when I've seen you before, there wasn't enough time for Amanda to tell her story. And I think you have a story. And do you think that there is a specific moment where you kind of took back your presence and said, I like to say the term, hey, I'm here. I became visible because I did this. I have done this for myself. Do you have a time that you think that you said, hey, you know what? I am a pretty doggone great person, and I'm going to stand up and take back myself and acknowledge what I've contributed to the world?
Good question. That's definitely an ongoing road. But my first breakout of God, if you will, is so as a child, I have a brother that molested me. And so, we're going through this church thing and leaving, and I don't remember what it was, but there was a moment I was like, why am I making excuses for God like I make excuses for my perp? Like I'd always say my brother, oh, we were just young and he got into drugs early. And no, that's bullshit. What he did was wrong. And when I was making excuses for a God that I was making for my perp, and I'm like, oh, that's bullshit. And God is supposed to be omnipotent, all knowing, all loving, all. Why does he need excuses? That's stupid. There's no God. And so from that point on, I don't 100% hate patriarchy. I'm sorry, women.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just like to be told what to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it. Just tell me what to do, right?
Yeah.
And so that that's my answer to where I am with God. He doesn't exist because I have to make excuses for you.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
I'm not a complete atheist either, though.
Right.
I think there's something mystical, or maybe our energy just plays forever. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I don't have to know. And that's okay with me.
Absolutely.
And so, like I said, my journey, it's still going. And right now it's just, I almost feel kind of something shifting in me where I'm really ready to like really own my shit and really start doing that shadow work. I mean, I've been doing it. Yeah. And, sometimes you can hear the same thing a million times, but that 1 millionth and one, it just, it pierces.
Yeah.
And I'm there right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
I love it. I love it. I love that you had this awakening of your own where you understood that I don't have to, there's a difference between understanding and recognizing, like you say, where people are, their places, their circumstances. I recognize that you were young. I recognize that you were on drugs. I don't need to say that it was okay. And like same thing with the gospel, with the authorities, with some of the doctrine that's been, I don't have to say that's okay. That's not okay. And that is definitely a self-awakening, and I can see where you stood up and said, I don't have to do that anymore. I am a real person that was violated, and I'm going to take back who I am and say that is not okay. I'm sorry for you, but I'm not going to say this was okay. And I forgive you from the standpoint that everything's fine and we'll never talk about this again. That's taking accountability for your value. And I love that. That's a perfect example. And I also love the fact that we're never done. We don't have to have a done time. Right. It's like, I am still standing here and I am still learning, and you're still young. You guys, you got married in 97? Is that what you said?
Yes.
See, I think my oldest graduated from high school in 98. And, so yeah, you're still young. You haven't quite hit the crone stage, as I say, the mothering stage of our wisdom, our female power, empowerment, and wisdom. But so are your kids all grown and gone now? Or do you still have one left at home?
We still have our baby at home. Okay. Our number 3 child actually graduated a year early. She's our one that you hear a lot about with depression and anxiety. And she was going to die if she stayed in Utah. So we sent her back home to Ohio. She's now married and up in Washington State. So yeah, just our baby is here and he's a senior.
Yeah. I can so see that. Simple things like this might sound really, and maybe I have my antenna up way too much, but I went to one of my favorite exercise classes this morning, and they always have a playlist going on in the background, right? So there's music, and I can't remember what the song was, but the F word was part of it, but you can barely hear it, but it was just, this constant thing. And I remember hearing one of the trainers go, whoops, and I thought, oh, yeah, they didn't say whoops in Arizona where but they said whoops in Utah. And it's little things like that, or just simple things like this is really trivial and stupid. But as you're going down, Bangerter Highway or 15, and you look over at the beautiful mountains, right? But then there's like steeple, 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 steeple. And I'm just kind of like, yowza.
Right.
So I can see, like you say, where there is this culture that I could see where you were such great parents to get maybe take your daughter out of the culture for her life,
Yes.
because it's here, and there's really a lot of good things about it. And there are some things that it can be just,
Yes.
all the time. So, well, you're amazing. I love you. I knew I loved you, and I love you even more now. So I appreciate
I love you too, Renee. Thank you so much.
Well, this has been so fun, and I hope others have learned more about Amanda and more about what makes the Real household just roll as great as it does. So,
right. Oh, and I was going to say really quickly too, to put the most simple. If you want to know anything about Bill and I, Bill is the great logical guy. And if you want to have fun, you come see me.
That's why I got you out of here, girlfriend. You know what? I'll have to give you a call because we're going to be heading down to St. George in a few days. So I'll have to.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
About that. So, all right.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Happy Labor Day weekend.
You too. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Amazing, right? Yeah. It's always good to hear the other side of that story. And I think she's absolutely right. Even if you just see Bill and Amanda together, you can really see where Bill is the intellectual, logical one, and Amanda is just a ball of fun waiting to happen. And I think that's what makes that partnership work so well. So I hope you enjoyed our interview as much as I did. And I hope that you will take any advantage that you have. If you ever hear of Bill and Amanda speaking at any kind of an event, I hope you will make an effort to go to it because they're very fun to listen to. And I just love learning more about people and learning from their experiences. And that's what podcasts are usually doing. We can all learn from other people's experiences, and maybe it'll help us not to make the same mistakes. And maybe it'll help us to maybe turn a curve a little bit. So that's what it's all about. So you have a fabulous weekend. We have some great things planned for this Labor Day weekend, my husband and I. So we're going to make the most of it. I think we might get a little rained on from what I'm hearing in the weather, but that's all right. We can still have fun. So you guys have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me today on She Became Visible. Join me each week as my guests and I explore the path of womanhood and tell all our stories. We'll talk about finding the courage to be ourselves and motivate each other to be everything that we're capable of and meant to be, no matter what happens around us. Please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to donate at SheBecameVisible.org.